BBOR Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. BlackBoxNid88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. And welcome to BBOR, the home of true crime talk radio and your premier destination for unsolved mysteries, criminal psychology, and exploring the dark side of cyberspace. My name is Ned DeHaan, and I am your host, as well as the creator of AstroPsych 400 here on YouTube, and regular contributor to the Zodiac Killer channel. And a great way to support these shows is just by listening to some more content. But you can also go over to Amazon.com and have a look at the book Killer on a White Horse, written by me, Ned DeHaan. It is a novel, murder mystery, inspired by the Zodiac Manson connection, but it is indeed fictional. However, who doesn't love a good mystery? And there is always the Teespring page. Feel free to check out some of the merchandise. And remember, being weird is not a crime. Let the show begin. This episode of Black Box Online Radio is brought to you by Rep Sports and Raze Energy. Are you a fan of energy drinks, protein shakes, and health foods? Well, I sure am. I use the stuff almost every single day. They sell Raze Energy products at my local gym, but you can have them shipped to your home. Use the coupon code NED075, that's NED075, for discounts applied at the checkout. The link is in the description box. Okay, hello everybody, welcome to the show, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Welcome to the Black Box Online Radio St. Patrick's Day celebration. No matter where you're coming from in the world, whether you're in West Virginia like me, or you're in Ireland, or maybe in one of the other countries around the globe, I wish you all a happy St. Patrick's Day, and I hope that everything is going well. You know, it was G.K. Chesterton who wrote that the great earls of Ireland, the men that God made mad, for all their wars are merry, and all their songs are sad. But no matter what, we're all Irish today and tonight, so I hope you guys are going to have a good celebration. Can I just take this time to say, how are you doing? No matter who you are, how are you? What's going on in your life? Anything you'd like to share, you can put it in the comment section down below, and I'll try to respond to you guys throughout the day. But because we are celebrating St. Patrick's Day, I also just want to talk to you very casually. And what are your plans tonight, or maybe carrying on tomorrow morning or throughout the day? Do you do any Irish traditions? I haven't been keeping up with that stuff too regularly, but I did see that Peacock uploaded all of the Leprechaun movies, the horror movies, featuring Warwick Davis in the early ones, and in the later ones. So I think it's the last two. The Leprechaun is played by Hornswoggle, the former WWE wrestler. Maybe he still actually is on there. I just haven't watched WWE in a long time. There were a lot of casual things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because part of me was thinking about just getting a bottle of Irish whiskey and then downing it while I was on this broadcast. Maybe even making some Irish coffee. Why not? It's St. Patrick's Day. The only reason why I decided not to do that is I had somewhat of a battle with alcoholism in my mid-20s. I'm in my early 30s now, and it's been nearly 10 years since I quit regular drinking. From time to time, I went back, off the wagon. I got off the wagon. That damn episode of Seinfeld really messed me up when they say, if you're not drinking alcohol, you are on the wagon, right? And then you go off the wagon. Well, I wanted to talk to you about strange addictions, because there is a show out there called My Strange Addiction that was featured on TLC, and I haven't seen it in quite some time, but they mostly talked about people who were eating weird things, whether there was this guy who would eat bullets, and one person ate glass, and one woman just really liked eating detergent, and almost always people said it was because of the texture, except for the guy who ate bullets. He said that was mostly done for attention. So I was thinking about making an episode for BBOR just to talk to you about my bizarre addictions. That's what I was going to call it. And that can be a challenge question for you. Do you have any bizarre habits or addictions? Let me give you a little bit of a rundown. I think that my biggest addiction in life has been alcohol, even though I mostly was able to kick that habit. But I remember back when I was 20 years old and I was talking to somebody, and that person said, "We all have our drug of choice." And for me, it was cocaine. Talking about her own experience, she said her drug of choice was cocaine. And I really began to think, well, what would my drug of choice be? What is that thing that you would use to maybe escape life for a little bit? Or how about this? What is something in your life that is a destructive habit, if you will, a bad habit? It doesn't only have to be substance related. I had a drinking problem for a while, and when I was 24, I just realized I'm not handling alcohol well. I have to stop. I have to quit. And I mostly did for about 7 years. And in the last 9 years, yeah, I've been drinking a little bit here and there, but mostly under control. But that's a big question. What is your drug of choice? And I talked a little bit about caffeine addiction in the episode that I did on the anthrax killer when I was talking about Bruce Ivans, who is the prime suspect in the anthrax killer case, even though he committed suicide before he could be convicted of those crimes. But I think overall, my biggest addiction was just weird behavior. And you might be thinking, Ned, how do you begin every show? Well, you talk about being weird is not a crime, right? Right? Well, then what's wrong with being weird? Well, the reason why I always say my favorite phrase is being weird is not a crime is because it was actually from Amanda Knox. She didn't say those exact words, but she was accused of the murder of her roommate, Meredith Kircher. And a lot of people really didn't like her behavior after she learned that her roommate was murdered. And they talked about some odd behavior that she was doing. And she responded to that in an interview by saying that, well, there's not exactly a manual on how to live your life, so to speak, paraphrasing, but she said something to that effect. And I would bring that up a lot on Black Box Online Radio over the last few years. It's hard to believe I've been doing this show for 5 years now. Oh my goodness. But yeah, she would say that, and then I would talk about how in true crime cases, a lot of the suspicion falls on somebody because they're doing something weird or unconventional. And just because somebody is being weird, it does not mean that they are guilty of murder. Just because somebody is doing something that you don't understand or you can't quite comprehend the reason why they have chosen to do that, it does not mean that they are guilty of any specific crime. Being weird is not a crime. Oh, no, you shouldn't go to jail for being weird, but does it bother people sometimes? Let's say if you're at a social gathering, or maybe you're at work and you're dealing with coworkers, or maybe you're at class if you're a student, or perhaps you're just in some type of project. If you have any type of responsibility that requires you to work with other people, being weird can be problematic. And for me, growing up, I was always a weird kid, like from the very beginning, and I've learned a lot about psychology since then. But one of the biggest problems that I had was that I was into things that other people simply were not into because we go to school, right? Then we come home. And when I was in high school, I became very passionately involved in things like independent films, and I would listen to just whatever music I could find online. We had these channels on DirecTV called Music Choice. They're still there, but I think you have to pay for them as like an add-on now. But oh, and because it's St. Patrick's Day, I got really into Irish music. Of course, like Flogging Molly, the Dropkick Murphys, right? But no, I would just listen to straight up folk music. And I was the only person I knew at the time who did that back when I was like 15, 16, and 17 and listening to older Irish songs. And it affected my personality and my sense of humor. And I loved independent films, the IFC, the Independent Film Channel, because I just have this obsession with minimalism. So much about that is connected to how you're making a movie, right? And when I said a passion for it, I was watching movies, not making movies, right? But when you're watching a movie, it's about the actors, it's about the writing, and it's about just the human experience as opposed to the special effects, or as opposed to some type of larger than life movie set. It's not even about like computerized animation and such. No, it's about people telling a story about what it's like to be human. I loved that stuff. But the problem was, I was the only person watching those things. And I got really into BBC America as a teenager, but I was the only person watching those things in my groups of friends or in my classmates. I was the only person listening to Irish folk music. So I would start to act like the characters on British sitcoms that I could see on BBC America, or act like the characters in the movies on the IFC channel. And so much of what I was doing made sense to me. I was like, I know why I'm doing this. This is my sense of humor now. This is my personality. I'm acting like one of these characters that I've seen. And maybe if people got the references that I was making, or they understood why I was making those facial expressions at a certain time, they wouldn't have thought that it was so weird, but that's what everybody just said. They were like, "You're so weird." And I've since learned that there comes a certain time in life when you have to recognize that if you're somebody who has a conventionally weird personality, you might not get along with everyone. And I've talked a lot about this with Dr. Helen Fisher in The Anatomy of Love, when she says that there are four governing components of brain chemistry: dopamine, serotonin, testosterone, and estrogen. And with dopamine, it's about fueling your own excitement. If you're a dopamine centered person, you do things to fuel your own excitement. If you're serotonin centered, you do things to fuel the social well being, so to speak. And you kind of need both of them to live in life. I mean, to care about yourself and also to care about other people. But I would definitely just do things to make my dopamine surges go up. And even if it's not dopamine, it's the endorphins, right? And I would just act really silly and really weird and bizarre around people. And that is another thing about being a dopamine centered person. Risk taking is also a characteristic of that. And this can be another challenge question for you guys. What is something about you that other people would be surprised to know? Because something about me is I am a risk taker. Nobody who knows me would probably ever describe me as a risk taker. No, but I do things like that because they don't expect me to do anything. They're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, this guy Ned, yeah, he's just he's really gentle and really quiet," and then all of a sudden I do something that defies their expectation. And people love their expectations. They love to just compartmentalize other people, and they put them in a box on a shelf that they can bring down. They're going to be like, I'm going to use this person to play a role in my life. But if someone's doing things to fuel their own excitement, well, then they're not going to be good at playing a role in the lives of other people. So I think that just kind of created all types of conflict for me. But it's not like to say that I'm right all the time, or that I'm a saint, so to speak. Why do people act weird? Why do people act bizarre? Why am I doing things that other people don't understand? Why was I behaving like that as a teenager? Is it just because I was really into movies and TV and music that other people weren't into? Well, what's the origin of all that? I mean, some of it is genuinely what I said. I mean, I just didn't follow the trends, and I listened to whatever I wanted to, and I watched whatever I wanted. And once I was at home, I'm my own person. Well, no one's forcing me to watch popular things. I can just watch the things that I actually like. But the other side of the coin is, if you're being weird and people don't understand you, then they can't criticize you. And I don't know why I'm saying you. This is me I'm talking about, right? If I were being weird, if I was being weird, nobody could truly criticize me because I can always fall back on the explanation. They just don't understand it. Yep, yep. So that's why I referred to it as an addiction or a drug of choice. And I genuinely do believe that it is an addiction because oh yeah, it was just last year, 2021, I started watching a lot of the Artie Lang show and Artie Lang's Halfway House. Artie Lang used to be the right-hand man for Howard Stern in what I think was the absolute best time on the Howard Stern show. Howard Stern has been on the air for ages, but when Artie Lang, as well as Sal and Richard and that group was all together, I think that that was the best time that Howard Stern ever had, and I've watched a lot of that stuff on YouTube. But eventually well, I guess I might as well say everything. His drug of choice was heroin, and he dealt with a lot of mental health issues. He attempted suicide and then did not return to the Howard Stern show. He had a show on DirecTV on the Audience Network called The Artie Lang Show, which I started watching back in 2014, but I started watching some older episodes of that on YouTube in 2021, and then I found that he had done a podcast, which is more like a vodcast, with video on called Artie Lang's Halfway House. And what somebody wrote in the comments section was that he is talking all about his drug experiences, about how he overcame them, but he's still romanticizing them. He is still romanticizing his experience with drugs. I hope he gets better. And that's why I've told you that just sort of being weird is not a crime, but it's my addiction. Because when I look back on life, and all those times when I was being weird around people or like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this guy? I still look back on it with a sense of humor or a sense of how I just found it so funny, the whole situation. And it's really not showing a lot of regard for the collective well being. And I frequently talk about the book The Dream of Mortal Life, which said very clearly that it is one of the true mysteries that we experience in our living world. How do you contribute to the collective well being and still maintain your right to individuality? But I want to hear some experiences from you guys, and if you're going to be celebrating St. Patrick's Day, what are you drinking? You can put that in the comments section down below. Are you drinking Irish whiskey? Are you drinking Guinness? Maybe Irish breakfast tea? You ever seen that? When I'm like sometimes when I'm walking up and down the aisles, I'm always tempted to get more Irish breakfast tea, not English breakfast, but Irish. And are you a fan of Bailey's Irish Cream? Oh, and the one thing though about drinking alcohol, I had always wanted to try green beer, and in 2012 it was. I really wanted to get green beer for St. Patrick's Day, and I bought this thing called green beer. They sold it at the whatever it was. I don't remember where we went. I was drunk at the time, and I wanted to get more beer, and I was like, okay, this said green beer, and then I poured it into a glass, and it was brown, and I was like, hey, oh no, I'm heartbroken. And everybody was laughing at me for talking in that silly voice, as I said, being weird, right? And I was like, it's not green, it's brown. And they were like, you dumbass, that's just the name of the company. It doesn't mean the beer is green. And I so passionately wanted that green beer for St. Patrick's Day, and I got duped. But eventually, no, I got to try green beer, and it tasted exactly like beer. However, it's green and it's good for St. Patrick's Day. Oh yeah, Shamrock Shakes from McDonald's. I completely forgot about that one. I have not had a Shamrock Shake this year. It's because I don't go out a lot. Most of the time I'm at home, and I really don't eat at McDonald's a lot because I'm mostly just doing things from the house ever since COVID came around. I used to go to McDonald's for coffee and fries. Believe it or not, I actually think that McDonald's had reasonable fries. Some people are just like, oh no, absolutely not. Like, I don't eat McDonald's fries. I only eat fries from Arby's. And I'm just like, go home, you're drunk. Yeah, the tables have turned. No, but if we're going to talk about strange addictions, caffeine, I don't even think is that strange of an addiction. A lot of people get hooked on caffeine. And someone was just talking to me about that earlier today about how he starts the morning and he only drinks decaf coffee. And someone was saying, what on earth are you doing drinking decaf coffee? And he was saying, like, okay, I don't need it for the caffeine anymore. I just do it as part of a ritual. And that really isn't such a bad thing to do if you can get away from it, because I knew that I went out of control with caffeine. Like, somebody asked me, how many cups of coffee do you drink in a day? And I just said, continuous. I should have said continuously, or maybe I should have actually said how many cups of coffee that I would drink in a day, but I said the word continuous because I wanted it to sound like the truth. I mean, at the time, I used to just drink coffee nonstop, and I never wanted to run out. I just always wanted the cup there, drinking something. And now there are Black Box Online Radio mugs, by the way. No, no, whatever, whatever. But the point is that I could even tell that it was bothering me, getting the caffeine jitters, getting so hyped up that I have the shakes, always being on edge, and even beginning to think about, that's something like you get lost in a daydream and it makes you angry, and it's amplified so much because you're just hyped up on caffeine. Not to mention that coffee can suppress your appetite, so you're hyped up on caffeine and you're hungry, that angry type of hungry, cold hangry. So I really think that that was something where I finally reached a breaking point, because for a while I was off of coffee, and then I was doing it with Diet Coke. I would start actually with a Diet Pepsi and a Monster Energy drink in the morning, and then there was this local shop near where I worked down the street and around the corner. So I would go there and I would buy, just another Diet Coke every time I ran out. Then I started buying them two at a time, and just like more and more and more. And I went out of control with that. And I just had the shakes so bad one day. I was so overwhelmed with caffeine that my body was starting to reject it. It was genuinely showing me that I can't drink anymore. So then I had to detox. And when I was talking about this on that Anthrax Killer episode, some people were responding saying that, yes, they had a similar experience with caffeine. Other people were saying that is nothing compared to other drugs out there. And I don't ever want to diminish the suffering of other people who have had to get off a serious drug. I think somebody said something about benzodiazepines in the comments section, or maybe somebody is dealing with something like Artie Lang trying to get off of heroin. And I absolutely don't want to compare caffeine addiction to something like a heroin addiction or being addicted to narcotics. No, those things are definitely more intense. I've never done heroin, but I imagine that getting off of them is much more intense than just trying to drink less coffee or drink less Diet Coke. But still, this is a different type of experience that people have. And if anyone has any experiences about that they feel comfortable sharing, you can write it in the comments section down below. However, I would also like to ask the question, did you ever know somebody who romanticized their time as an addict? Say, for example, somebody who used to do drugs in the past, maybe they used to drink alcohol in the past, and then they still think that it's badass, or they still think that it was cool, or they think that it was just very impressive how hard they were partying, or how exciting life used to be when they were addicted to drugs or drinking, or maybe they had a different type of addiction. And I mean, some people are addicted to things like pornography. Addictions do not only have to be about substances. And I mean, I was even talking for ages about, just being weird. But one thing that I do want to try again in the future is something called creative time, because when I did an episode once talking about things like assertiveness training, and I did Ned's somewhat declassified survival guide here on this channel, that was more like my own experiences in the self-help world, and I talk a lot about this on AstroPsych 400. But I wanted to go back to a self-help activity that I've only tried a couple times, and it's about putting time aside for being creative, like on the weekends or maybe on a Friday night or sometime when you are free to do something. And it's really about just managing your time. I mean, it's meant to pair the personality traits of openness and conscientiousness, and I did it in 2020, but it's difficult. Oh, I repeat, it is difficult to spend 2 hours doing things that are mostly creative for the sake of being creative. Like, I was trying to draw and doodling, and I would also include recording Black Box Online Radio into that time, but to actually fill the limit, I mean, maybe if I were working on one of the books, which I'll say something about in a second, I would be able to keep that going a little bit longer. But in the self-help episode I did, one of the points that I came to realize in life was never be silly in public. And I'm almost tempted to say, never be excited without a reason. And I was talking about that in 2015 with somebody once when they sent me this text message. It was like we were conversing back and forth via text, and they said, "You seem like you're excited." And I said, "What's wrong with that?" And that person said that nothing as long as you don't hurt anyone. I was like, wow, what a weird thing to say. Excitement? I thought excitement was a good thing. And when I think about that a little bit more, I think the point that text message was that that type of behavior can bother people, or definitely confuses people. But I think the thing about never be silly in public is more important than never be excited because, I mean, as I said, excited with a reason. You're celebrating. Maybe your favorite team won the Super Bowl or something like that. Yes, be excited for that, but never be silly in public. I stand by that one because people will not understand it. They will not find value in it. They will not think that it's just somebody being silly to try and get laughs. No, they will interpret it as a weakness. And one of the ways that I thought to deal with that type of behavior is creative time. If you were just to do like anything that is just silly for the sake of free expression, and you'd also be putting things like excitement or silliness into something more practical, like creating art. And I was just drawing on my sketch pad, even though I'm not an artist. I don't even draw well or anything like that. But I was just trying to put that time aside and thinking that it would be a little bit more balanced. Now, I'm sure that you can understand this to a certain extent, but I'm not the most outgoing person. Oh, I'm talkative. I'm extremely talkative. I can ramble on until kingdom come. But sometimes, though, as I said, I am a risk taker. So I start out quiet, then I start becoming more and more outgoing. And, I try to be sociable sometimes, and I'm like, okay, I recognize that I'm not super talkative. All right, I'm going to mingle, and I'm going to try to make friends with people. And I was doing that once, and then somebody just turned to me at a social gathering and said, "You get off on making people uncomfortable, don't ya?" And I was like, "No, I'm just trying to interact with other human beings, and I'm really bad at it." So, it's not easy. Human interaction is a skill. Human interaction is something that you have to learn, but they don't tell you that stuff in school. Oh no, absolutely not. If anything, and the writer Rollo Tomasi, author of The Rational Male, gets into a lot of this when he says that it's almost like the way that we're educated in school encourages us to be boring and nice and gentle and harmless. But once you get to your teen years and you actually have to interact with people for things, maybe like dating is really what he's going at. But how about workplace environments? Oh, you could expand it to so much more than just romantic relationships. How about dealing with more mature conflicts among your peers and your so-called friends? I mean, when I look back on the people that I knew in high school, I don't talk to a single person. Absolutely not. Not a single one. I'm not exaggerating. And a lot of it's because those friendships weren't very good for either one of us on either side. But there is something about that. Human interaction is a skill, and if you just follow the American K through 12 education, then it's going to turn into something like you'll grow up to be plain, ordinary, boring, defenseless. I said harmless before, but we can throw in defenseless. And all of those things are bad. They hardly deal with things like assertiveness training. They hardly deal with things like being aware of your own mind and so on. And I've talked a lot about this on the channel back in 2019, especially some of the things from the book A Mindful Nation that was just saying we need mindfulness and mental awareness education classes in schools. And there was even one idea that was proposed. I think it was on a Facebook page. What was it? Not Spiritual Man. Oh, what was that one called? I used to listen to it all the time, or read their post all the time. It was called something like Human Consciousness, and it said that imagine a class that was devoted just for concentration. Imagine something like that. And I was like, believe it or not, I think that that'd be amazingly valuable because so many times people want to talk about things like ADD, ADHD, and they want to use medications to solve the problems. Some people genuinely do need medication for their mental health issues. But when I was listening to a video from Dr. Ramani, she was talking about this on YouTube. She's a psychologist YouTuber, and she said that have you ever known somebody, or maybe you've had this experience yourself, where you can read some books, but not other books? You can do your own free reading, but you couldn't read the books for school. Maybe that's not ADD. That's most likely just stress. And a Mindful Nation talked about this as well, where, say, somebody's reading and then they encounter a word, and they had a bad experience where somebody said that word at a previous time, and then you recall the bad experience, and then you just get overwhelmed with emotion, and you lose focus. You cannot what? Concentrate. So if there was just a class that would help people in junior high even, focusing on concentration or focusing on creativity or focusing on some of the bare bones fundamentals of human thought and free expression. Put that into our K through 12 system. But on the notion of free expression and creativity and all that. As you guys know, my name is Ned DeHaan, and I'm the author of Killer on a White Horse, a novel which came out last year. I am currently working on my second book, and big thank you guys so much to anyone who read Killer on a White Horse. A lot of you have been talking to me about it in the comment section or writing into the Facebook page and BlackBoxOnlineRadio at AOL.com. But the next book is completely written. All of the manuscript has been composed. I'm still putting it together because it has some short things, and it's going to feature a preview of Killer on a White Horse for anyone who hasn't read it yet, but I'm still putting it together, and I hope that that will be released sometime this year. And life's too short, goodness gracious, and you can't compose a book the same way you do a YouTube episode. I mean, so many times on this channel, Black Box Online Radio, I want to talk to you guys about something, and then all of a sudden there's a breaking news development, or I start learning about something else in the true crime world, or about psychology, or about some type of issue. I recently did the one on the psychiatry and industry of death when I was responding to a documentary of that title, and it's like, okay, well, tomorrow I'll just do the episode that I was thinking about doing today. I'll just switch up the topics, right? 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 Well, writing a book is so different because I uh, I have two things that I'm really thinking about, and I've said very clearly that Killer on a White Horse was inspired by the Zodiac Manson connection, and it was purely an inspiration. There are all different kinds of characters, they have different names, it's set in a different state, and it's not so much on how there was this cult leader like Charles Manson. Instead, he is more of a drifter type, and if you want to read Killer on a White Horse, well, there's a link in the description box. And I really wanted to write another Zodiac inspired novel, but about the full circle theory. Oh, and I know exactly what I want to do. I just need to put it down. I've written the entire thing in my mind. I just need to put it on paper about how the murders of Ray Davis and Robert Domingos and Linda Edwards are meant to be like the initial groundwork, and the final two Zodiac crimes, the Lake Berryessa stabbing and the murder of Paul Stein, are meant to mirror or copy the murders of Ray Davis and Robert Domingos and Linda Edwards. So, like everything is coming full circle and would show how some other crimes are tied into that. Again, I know exactly what I would do. I know who's going to be in it. And with that one, I wouldn't change any of the place names. Like with Killer on a White Horse, I chose to set it in the state of Maryland, in a town that isn't too far from me in West Virginia, because I knew how to visualize it. But I could also just, I would do everything. It's in California. We're talking not the present day like Killer on a White Horse was set in. I'm 1962, 63, 1968, 69, talking all about the actual dates of zodiac activity. The only thing that I would change would be the characters' names. I mean, if there's going to be somebody like Robert Domingos or Linda Edwards, well, then they're going to be two people of the exact same ages, and they're going to be just the names are going to be different. And the reason why I would do that is, firstly, I don't subscribe to any full circle theory in the zodiac mystery. Oh, I'm curious about it, but I would want to make it very clear that this is a fictional story that I'm putting out that isn't involving the real life victims. Yes, of course, the some of it was using the Zodiac Killer mystery as source material, but I would definitely want to present it as a novel. Okay, I've been thinking about that for a year now. I just wanted to get this second book out, and well, first to get Killer on a White Horse out now. However, and this is a big however, I thought of a nonfiction book for the Zodiac Killer. And in case this is the first episode that you've ever clicked on from my channel, I do a regular Monday segment about the Zodiac here on this channel. It is called Zodiac Mondays, and lately I've been doing the Zodiac Killer news reports, but I thought of a new idea for a nonfiction Zodiac book, and I was like, oh my goodness, you can't just devote, like one day I'm going to write the Zodiac book and the next day I'm going to write a novel. And then there is the, maybe I'll just, write my own imaginary dream journal based on looking into my own soul 3 ways from Sunday on the weekend. You can't just do that. I'm like, life's too short. I mean, I know exactly what I want to say in both of those, but it's a long, tedious process, and I'll just see which one comes out first. But believe it or not, a lot of people in the comments section have requested that I write a nonfiction Zodiac Killer book because I talk about them a lot here on this channel, but, easier said than done, and I also didn't want it to seem like I'm just writing a book that I'm going to put on Amazon.com, doing it purely for profit. The biggest reason would be just because I have some observations that I want to share. And with the novels, I can talk about theories that I don't genuinely believe. I don't believe the real Zodiac Manson connection. I don't believe the real full circle theory. I think that there is a certain entertaining component. And imagine if you could take that entertaining aspect and just put it somewhere in an appropriate place. And that would be the purpose of creating a novel. And that's why I did it the first time, except the real reason I wrote Killer on a White Horse was I submitted it to the Minotaur Books writing competition. Every year they do something called the First True Crime Novel Competition, and they also have one about um, purely devoted to domestic situations. It might have, I was about to say domestic violence, but I don't know if they use that word. It might actually be the domestic true crime novel competition. Okay, I digress from that. But it's actually hosted by St. Martin's Press, who gave us the book Zodiac in 1986, and it was a bucket list thing for me to do, to write a novel and submit to the Minotaur Books, St. Martin's Minotaur First True Crime Novel competition. I tried in 2007 and I didn't make it. I tried in 2010 and I couldn't do it again. So I finally did, and I submitted, and I didn't win. I didn't win the $10,000 in the book deal, but that's the reason why I wrote Killer on a White Horse, and there are going to be some new books coming out here on Black Box Online Radio, so you can always like and subscribe to the channel, and then you can follow along with all of these developments, whether it's new podcasts, or maybe I'll be doing some more interviews. I'm also the host of the Zodiac Killer Channel's Interview with the Expert series, where we talk about everything under the sun and in the darkness about that mystery. And there's lots of non-Zodiac content here on this channel, such as all the episodes about serial killers, and they are really piling up. You know, back in 2019, I really had a deviation in the channel. I used to just talk to you guys about my true crime theories. I would look at an unsolved case, and I would think, okay, here's what I think happened. And I did that about the disappearance of Brandon Lawson, and everything I said about him was wrong. I did that about the murder of Missy Beavers, and everything I said about her was wrong. And the first time I ever talked about a case that was solved was when I did an episode on the murder of Alan Berg, a radio host who was killed by an extremist organization called The Order. And then I did a second one on Braulio Castillo, a CEO who murdered his wife and had to testify before Congress in an unrelated issue. And there was a lot of news coverage about him. It was in a very poor job of staging the scene. So it really wasn't something to just talk about cases that were solved. But in 2019, I have to give a shout out to YouTube user Kelly Gable for pushing me down this pathway. The channel began to talk more about criminal psychology, and because Kelly Gable encouraged me to look at a Zodiac suspect named Robert Christian Hansen, and I began reading about him, and I did 2 episodes, and I got back into the swing of watching serial killer documentaries. And I have a larger episode that was done in the more contemporary format here on Black Box Online Radio. The first 2 episodes I did about Robert Christian Hansen were just those old gray box recordings, but this one had more of like the images, and it's done like the way this episode was done, and that came out was that that also has been more than a year ago. I was about to say last year. That might have been more than a year ago. Oh my goodness, the time just flies by, dear Lord. But in the summer and fall of 2019, I really began to talk more about serial killers, and I did a 3-part series on Jeffrey Dahmer. I did either 2 or 3-part series on Ted Bundy. I have about 6 episodes now on John Wayne Gacy, because I wanted to talk about some of the more famous serial killers, thinking that if I'm gonna try and learn about serial killer psychology, not only do I want to talk about the lesser known serial killers, but also talk about some of the mainstream and contemporary observations. And the channel really entered into just a completely new dynamic. And there are a couple other reasons for that, because in the summer of 2019, I moved to a different city, and I didn't know anybody there except one person. The boss was a former coworker of mine who recruited me for a job, and I only knew one person in the city, and I ended up not liking the boss very much. As a coworker and as a boss, it's a completely different set of personality traits, and like the way they act towards you once they have a controlling expectation in your world, so to speak. But I was just spending almost all my time alone, and what did I do with that time? I was planning BBOR, and it was definitely a mental organization process. I also had no internet, by the way, so I would go out for breakfast every morning, drinking Diet Pepsi and energy drinks at this one place where I would upload BBOR, and I would spend all night watching true crime programs, listening to true crime podcasts that I would download and bring on my phone, and that's just what I would do. And I really felt that I was absorbing the material, because if every day you're watching true crime, you start to notice patterns and trends and similarities, and it's just all coming together. And I went months without talking about the Zodiac Killer, because again, it was just whatever I was following in the true crime world that day. And sometimes I talked about politics, but no, those things never really took off. But a lot of those observations were captured in 2019 because it was just the biggest focus of my life, even more so than that job that I don't have anymore in that one city where I don't live, where I didn't know anyone except for one person whom I don't like. So there's a lot of that that's happened on this channel, and I mean, for months I was just pulled into that world of serial killer psychology, and then you guys wanted to hear more about the Zodiac killer and more about the suspects and just anything Zodiac related, and that was fine. And then I've just absolutely loved talking to you guys almost every day. I mean, my personality is definitely the type where I do the show every day for 20 minutes. That's me. But I definitely like the episodes that were put out in 2021 when I was doing it only 3 days a week. You know, like when I actually listened back to the episodes. Zodiac Mondays, Wednesday the AMA, and Friday Isn't Anything Goes, where any subject is fair game. I definitely like the content that was created. So I'm not exactly sure what to do because my heart is telling me one thing and my brain is telling me another thing, and that'd be another mystery in life. Not only is it like, how do you contribute to the collective well-being and your own right to individuality, how do you choose your heart or your brain? How do you have any type of balance going on with that? Maybe you don't really have to choose. Maybe you can just go with both. And if anybody would like to talk about things that they are passionate about, I know that you guys must be following true crime if you're still listening this far into the episode. And of course, there's a lot about the Zodiac Killer. And I really like doing things on Astro Psych 400. And part of me is just going to have to make the decision that I'm going to concentrate more on BBOR for now. And if you haven't heard anything on that channel, Astro Psych 400 was created because I wanted to do a 12-part video series on astrology. Talking about the Zodiac Killer got me curious about zodiac signs, and I had some observations. And a big reason was just to prove to myself that I could do it. I didn't want to be that person who's just sitting around thinking, yeah, I should do that. And I thought about it when I was at work once, and I should have been working, but I was just thinking about BBOR and other YouTube videos that I wanted to make. And I thought of this blueprint in my mind about making a 12-part video series on astrology. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm really going to do it. I'm not just going to spend hours upon hours planning something mentally and then not doing it. I actually want this to happen. And that's the point where I'm at in life. It's not enough to just want to do something. I want to try. And sometimes you do fail. Oh my goodness. I was just listening to the Oak Leaves and Onions channel this afternoon, and she was talking about that very subject. If you succeed, it's most likely that you're going to fail at some point along the way. Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. So many things that I've done on YouTube have not worked out, but I don't mind. I'll keep going. I mean, that's the thing with making YouTube videos. If you put out a video that's a dud, you can just make a new one tomorrow, and you don't even have to always try to get thousands of views or millions of views. Definitely, that's not the objective of Black Box Online Radio. I just like talking to you guys about the true crime cases that I'm exploring, as well as some other subjects. And I want to hear from you guys. What are you looking into right now? What true crime cases are you following? What movies are you watching? And share anything you want. This is an easygoing episode. If there's something that you'd like to discuss in the comments section, you can throw that in there. I haven't been talking too much about St. Patrick's Day, but I've just wanted to do this very casually and share what's going on in my world, and I want to hear what's going on in your world. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And in conclusion, I would like to say that St. Patrick's Day is also connected to the Zodiac Killer mystery. This is the birthday of Darlene Ferrin, who was murdered on July 4th of 1969. She was born on St. Patrick's Day, fueling that holiday connection. Cecilia Shepard, the victim at Lake Berryessa, was born on January 1st, New Year's Day, also fueling that holiday connection. But a big rest in peace to Darlene Ferrin and the other victims. And the Zodiac Killer suspect, Dennis Land, committed suicide on St. Patrick's Day in 2010. I've talked a lot about him on this channel. I might do some more episodes on him. However, I think that this is where I'm going to simply wish you guys a good holiday. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. And if you're going to get drunk tonight, then tell me all about it in the comments section down below. Share anything you want. You want to say that if you think that being weird is not a crime, it's true. I will not judge you on your weird behavior. And that is one of the reasons why I'm here on YouTube, because this is one of the appropriate places for sharing the weird side of you. As long as you don't do it in a very destructive way. But if you want to like talk about anything music, movies related, tell me what's going on in your life. I want to hear. Anybody can write the show at BlackBoxOnlineRadio at AOL.com. You can also get me on Facebook. My personal Facebook is in the description box. And of course, there is always BlackBoxNid88 on Instagram, and I will see you over there for the bonus podcast. Until next time.